17-year-old girl with suspected autism may now face a 12-match ban as punishment for asking an adult transgender opponent, "Are you a man?" Now, I'm going to talk about this in this video and outline what the law means. Of course, I don't mean any disrespect or upset to anybody, but these are serious issues, and as the thumbnail suggests, they are already affecting lots of people. Now, there are one or two people in various comments that say I shouldn't talk about these things, but these are the law and they do affect all of us. So if you would do me the favor of liking the video and subscribing to the channel, just send signals to YouTube that you do want to hear where the law sits on these things so that we can have the conversation and that everybody understands what the law means, I'd be very grateful. So the Telegraph reports, and I'll link this article in the description below so you can read it in full for yourself, form your own views. I'm not telling you what to think, I'm only going to outline the story and tell you what the law says. So the Telegraph reports that this girl raised this question to an adult opponent who's transgender, "Are you a man?" Now, bearing in mind this girl is suspected to have autism, not only might that play a part in how she conveys her questions and curiosity, but also people with autism or suspected autism may struggle with the differential between genders as well. And given that this is a women's only game, I think that's only natural to throw up an opinion there. But she's reported to have said things like, "Are you a man? That's a man, don't come here again." And also admitted to asking the referee for guidance about this player's eligibility to play in the women's football, given concerns for her safety, having already suffered a number of overly physical challenges, she said. The referee also said that he heard nothing that he deemed to be discriminatory. Nonetheless, she's now been charged after the opposition club lodged a complaint via Kick It Out, which is this anti-discrimination watchdog for the Football Association, and she's going to a hearing next month, and if found guilty, now faces a 6 to 12-month match ban as punishment for what they have obviously alleged to be discriminatory remarks. In a written statement that she submitted as a defence, she said that she became confused as to the participation of the trans player during the match, due to the latter wearing jewellery and sunglasses and not being in opposition kit. She said the moment the player clarified that they were transgender, which previously hadn't considered, she said, "I respected their answer fully, dropped the situation and immediately shifted my focus back to the game before seeking guidance from the referee. At no point was my question meant to be hurtful or malicious, as I only intended to seek clarity in an unfamiliar situation. Knowing now that the player was transgender, I understand that there were better ways to approach this question." It's then reported that she was then confronted during a drinks break by the opposition captain, who told her that she should not have an issue with playing a trans opponent. She said, "I raised a concern about the risk of serious injury as a 17-year-old girl playing against a biological male who was much larger than me and a very physical player, which was possibly a safety issue as I did not want to get dangerously injured right before the start of a new season. Despite this," she said, "I made it clear that if the player met the eligibility criteria for the Football Association, I would respect the rules and accept the risk involved in continuing to play the match. My safeguarding officer and the referee were both present for the conversation." The Football Association, I believe, was approached for comment by the Telegraph, who chose not to make a comment, simply saying that it's aware of the incident and unable to comment as this incident is part of an ongoing investigation and that this case will be heard by a national serious case panel in due course. And so moving briefly to the Football Association policy on trans participants, it says the policy on trans people wishing to play football in their affirmed gender is as follows. Under 16 on mixed football, any person playing football in the age range of under 7 to under 16 may play in a match involving boys and girls without restriction. There are therefore no conditions regarding any individual playing in a match under their reassigned or affirmed gender in these ranges. Some people may take an issue with that. Some people may find that that's perfectly fine. However, it's when we get to 16 and over, that's obviously when most, if not all, players have gone through full puberty and are going to have developed male or female physiology, which is reasonably obviously more important for biological males having gone through puberty playing in female categories. The 16 and over category reads as follows. Pursuant to the Football Association Rule J3 on mixed football, any players playing in an age range above the under 16 age range must be of the same gender. However, an individual may be eligible for participation in their affirmed gender. This will be subject to the approval of the Football Association on a case-by-case basis, and clearance procedure is set out below. In reaching a decision, the Football Association will have regard to the following two factors, and this is where the law is coming into play here. It says the first being the safety of the applicant and fellow players, and secondly, the need to ensure fair play and fair competition. Now, the obvious argument here, because I seem to talk about things that a lot of people are either afraid to talk about for fear of getting it wrong or causing a debate, and some people don't want me to talk about it because they think that it's political. But there is absolutely direct relevance insofar as the law is concerned. If we jump over to the Equality Act 2010, section 195, which deals with sport. Now, if we think of this in terms of the protected characteristics in the Equality Act, whereby it would be unlawful to unfairly discriminate on the basis of one of those characteristics, save where there are exceptions, and obviously the two relevant here are sex and gender reassignment. This section here on sport deals with whether anything being done is discriminatory with regard to those characteristics. And with that in mind, it says here, a person does not contravene this act so far as relating to sex only by doing anything in relation to the participation of another as a competitor in a gender-affected activity. In English, if there is a sport that has a male and a female category, it is not discriminatory on the basis of sex to exclude males from female categories and vice versa. However, that obviously then goes on to gender reassignment under subsection 2. A person does not contravene section 29, 33, 34 or 35 so far as relating to gender reassignment only by doing anything in relation to the participation of a transsexual person as a competitor in a gender-affected activity if it is necessary to do so to ensure in relation to the activity the following two things: fair competition and the safety of competitors. I make the distinction or. It doesn't have to be both. Those are the two possible clauses, but it doesn't have to be both of those. Either fair competition or the safety of other competitors. But then when we look at the gender-affected activity as a sport, this is also really important in terms of the conversation that we must have regard to male and female sports categories and trans people switching from one category to another. And all of this, by the way, without a full gender recognition certificate. I'll come back to that in a moment, because that is slightly different, but I'll come back to that in a minute. Now, a gender-affected activity is a sport, game, or other activity, reading from subsection 3 here, which is competitive in nature in circumstances in which the physical strength, stamina, or physique of the average person of one sex would put them at a disadvantage compared to the average persons of the other sex as competitors in events involving that activity. Now, again, in English, if someone is born male and they've been through male puberty and then they want to play on a female sporting team, that puts everyone else at a disadvantage compared to the average person, because the average male, having gone through puberty, is going to be stronger, with more stamina and physique of more than that of the average person of that sex compared to the other sex. And so that is why this Equality Act provides under sport that it is not discriminatory on the basis for fair competition and the safety of competitors to exclude any person who has the protected characteristic of gender reassignment from switching teams. Now, then you might ask, well, what about a full gender recognition certificate, which is where somebody has gone through the full process of obtaining a full gender recognition certificate. You'll remember if you watch my previous videos, that gives anyone that has now their acquired gender the full protection of the sex of that gender. Although the case, as I mentioned, is going to the Supreme Court, whether that is biological sex or just sex for the purposes of gender recognition. That will be decided by the Supreme Court next month. Hopefully it will be clear, so everyone knows what it says. May not agree with it, but everyone will know what it says, one way or another. However, notwithstanding Section 19 of the Gender Recognition Act of 2004, which deals with gender recognition certificates, has a sort of mirror provision with regard to sport. It says, a body responsible for regulating the participation of persons as competitors in an event or events involving gender-affected sport, what we've just discussed, may, if this subsection is satisfied, prohibit or restrict the participation of competitors in the event or events of persons whose genders become the acquired gender under this act. So someone who is born male, maybe even gone through male puberty or whatever, gone through the whole process of obtaining a gender recognition certificate and then has now their acquired gender of female under this act, it is still open to a sporting body to prohibit or restrict the participation as competitors in an event if it is satisfied that it is necessary to secure A, the fair competition, or the safety of competitors at the sporting events. And again, sport means sport or game or other activity of a competitive nature. And so either way, with or without a gender recognition certificate, it is open to these sporting bodies to restrict, so make restrictive, as in not completely prohibited entirely, but restricted to a certain category perhaps, or prohibited entirely on the basis of fairness or safety of the competitors. And that then begs the question why it is that the Football Association, as reported by the Telegraph, repeatedly comes under criticism for its alleged failure to ban those who are born male from women's games. Now, this story here, just because a 17-year-old girl has raised the questions because she was unsure, again, bearing in mind the suspected autism here, she may have phrased things in a way that she now regrets, but we all do things like that. We all have a slip of the tongue now and again, and she may have felt that it was unfair. If, as it's reported here, she was concerned for safety, reading from this paragraph here, she was concerned for safety over already suffering a number of overly physical challenges. So you can probably see this playing out. She was part of this game. She is reported to have had overly physical challenges and then become confused as to the eligibility of this opponent's participation in this game in the first place. However, now that this is going to a hearing by what sounds like a very serious hearing to me, it's all new to me, I'm not a sports lawyer, but a case being heard by the National Serious Case Panel in due course, is this not just Streisand effect all over and over again? Is this not just bringing negative attention to this whole issue? Because as I've mentioned in previous videos, there are people with genuine gender dysphoria, which is recognized and diagnosed, and they probably wouldn't look kindly on this kind of treatment of someone who is just raising the question and having the discussion, particularly when the law does support the restriction of participation of transgender persons if it is in the safety and interests of the participants and fairness for the game. So, as I said at the outset, I don't mean this video to cause any disrespect or upset, but these are conversations that we must have, and it would seem to me that even large organizations are either ignoring or they are simply taking one side and taking a stand. So without injecting too much of a personal opinion into this video, for that you can subscribe to Black Belt Secrets, linked in the description below. But I will inject something of a legal opinion into this. Not legal advice, but a legal opinion. My legal opinion is there are two pieces of legislation, one which is generic under the Equality Act, for sports, the other which is under the Gender Recognition Act, which directly deals with those that have a gender recognition certificate, mirror provisions that allow organizations to restrict or even prohibit participation in a competition of a competitor whereby it is necessary to secure the fair competition or safety of competitors. Now, again, sticking with something of a legal opinion here, it is my view that a sporting organisation would be perfectly compliant with the Equality Act if they documented why they have restricted a certain participant from its matches in line with Section 195 of the Equality Act, or indeed Section 19 of the Gender Recognition Act, on the basis of fair competition and safety of its competitors. Just for the avoidance of doubt, I don't know that they haven't done any of that, or even that they have done any of that with the participants mentioned in this story. That is a generic view for organizations in general. I've just realized it keeps getting lighter and darker in here, so apologies for that. But in my view, it would be in compliance with the legislation for organizations to do that. And I would urge organizations to consider that very firmly, because otherwise it's going to end in bad publicity, which I suspect this will, even if it turns out the Football Association is perfectly in line with its own policies and it's decided not to exclude anybody on this occasion. It still results in bad publicity. So take from that what you will. As I said, no personal opinions on this video, but leave me your thoughts and comments respectfully in the comment box below, please. Please do like the video and subscribe and hit the notification bell. Otherwise, my videos like this get buried. I know that a lot of you want to hear discussions on this and feel that it's absolutely necessary. I feel that it's necessary because this is what the law says. It's only a little bit like me talking about the laws that allow you to carry a pocket knife or something like that. Now, I don't personally advocate the carrying of a pocket knife, but I will tell you what the law says on what you can and cannot carry. For those videos, you'll find them in my video list below. But as I say, leave me your thoughts and comments. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.